Hi, it's Jeff Allen, and I'm doing another one of these videos in a series about the language industry and things we're going through and how to. So this one's specifically about how to avoid getting into the language industry visibility rut. That's what I'm going to call it. How to avoid getting into the rut, the visibility rut, and also possibly how to get out of it um, if you're already in that rut, which is usually the case. Um, I'm warning you, if you're coming to hopefully get something here that's going to happen in 5 minutes, it's a 5 minute video, this is not the place. I've got other videos or pieces of this that I'm going to make in separate little videos. Go watch those if you just don't want to. But this, I'm going to tell a story, and storytelling is something that takes time, and I'm building a case. I'm showing you different examples. So if you want to get the whole thing together in a package, explain it through a story and different examples throughout my life and career, then this is stay here. If you just want to get the little things, your attention span is enough for to watch something that's longer, then go watch the pieces of it in different little videos. There, I explain it there. So elsewhere in my on my YouTube channel. Okay. Um, so it's all about visibility, uh, being visible, and doing things that are visible. And the first thing I'll mention here, and we all need to just recognize this, that the language industry people, okay, you word lovers, you language nerds, you're not usually marketing people or salespeople. Okay, marketing people and salespeople are visible. They make themselves visible. They get attention. They brag. Okay, they're good at it, and they are the ones that bring in the funding, bring in the money and the revenue every month for you to be able to have your job to do the behind the scenes work of the word lovers. Okay, that's reality. That's usually the case. And so, and usually, language lovers, word lovers, these kind of folks, um, we're not usually good at that. I found I've actually become good at it, and over the years, and I want to explain how I've done it. And this is not the way to do it, but it's an example. People need examples, and so I'm kind of sharing that. Um, so the first thing I want to go back to, kind of explain the story. Again, it's a story. Is first you need to select your language. Okay. That's kind of a key thing when you want to communicate. Seems kind of basic, but it's important. Um, so in my past, I mean, I did my bachelor's and my master's and doctoral studies in language. So um, my bachelor's degree in French. And then I did my master's and doctoral studies in linguistics, French, and then linguistics, and applied linguistics, and theoretical linguistics, and computational linguistics. Um, so, so I did that from 1988 to 94, kind of intensely for those degrees. And then, and so a lot of that was written in French for the specific reason that I was doing bachelor's in French. Uh, and then I did that in 1 year, so it was pretty intense, a year. And my master's and my doctorate degrees were at a French university where I had to write in French, because that's what the language was to do it in. And so I had to prove that I knew how to write French, for all those years. And so my choice of the language for a number of those years, from 1988 to 1994, was pretty much exclusive in French, with some in English. Kind of depended on the class, because some classes were in English. Kind of depends in the states, US or whatever. But just there was I had to use French for a specific reason for that period of time. Then I stopped writing exclusively in French. I'll say exclusively, in order to choose a wider language, which was English, which happens to be my native language too. But uh, I chose to do that because I was going to go wider. I was going to get a wider kind of audience. Then, then I had a few of the kind of the last conference papers or articles I wrote in French were kind of around 1999. I kind of wrote a few more. The majority are in English, and I used French and even used, but however, I did use French and even Haitian Creole, sometimes Spanish, to speak, to present what is written in French, or in English, I'm sorry. And even today in my job, I will write. of everything in English, but I will present it in French because I've been working in French for 30 years. So I've done this for 30 years. I've been doing a lot of this just, but it kind of this idea that what you write in and you publish in is one thing, and what you speak in and you might present in might be another, even if it's the same thing. And this is accepted in industry. I mean, this is just accepted to do that. So it's okay. You don't have to do it. You don't have to publish the things in the language. Um, in a language that'll be less visible. Now, I'm not saying that's not good, and I do see a lot of things uh, about that. But choose a language that will be a wider audience. We're going to come to that, and then I did some papers, articles. That I've done some papers and articles I wrote in, there were interview articles too that were written in English, but then we translated them into French, me or others. So I mean, we've done this in a few articles in Multilingual Magazine in 2002, and there's another that came out in 2010. That was actually published in 3 different languages. So um, it's possible in the other languages after the fact or just right after. But uh, but the reason for this of selecting the language, point one, is now coming to point two. The reason to do this, why? Why for that reason is you need to maximize your readership. You need to maximize your viewer audience and your readership audience. Because niche audiences of small groups of people, like 50 people to 100 people in a specific conference, are going to be very limited versus if you're doing a general audience, like writing in a magazine of 60,000 readers in 80 countries or something like that. So I learned to do that over a period of time because back in for the Creole languages from 1992 to 1998, I was doing specifically Creole language conferences and Creole language journals and things like that for those years, just really focusing on those, getting into those Creole things. That's niche. But the audience is like 50, 100 specialist expert in the world. I mean, that's just it. Um, and then the controlled language audience and all that, I was doing pretty much from in the CLAW and the MT conferences and from 1998 to like 2004. So it's very specific people, specific niche people. And then the same thing for machine translation or automated translation, when you call this. Those audiences, there's a lot from 1998 to like 2002, 2004, 2006 maybe. I still do a few of those from time to time, but and then just I shifted from all these niche audiences for the different things I've been working on over the my career, shifted those to really general interest language magazines and journals in like 1999 to 2000-ish. So I started focusing on that, and I wrote columns and stuff, just general language interest stuff. Got a larger readership, and then I shifted again around 2001, and I was doing those in parallel. In 2001, I started getting to really the business magazines because of much wider readership. You're getting, like I said, 60,000 readers in 80 countries, or even getting to like the newspapers, where the Herald Tribune and New York Times. I mean, this is just wide audiences, folks. So this is kind of learn to maximize that readership, because again, it's about visibility. It's about visibility. It's great if you're visible to the 50 or to 100 colleagues in the world that do your thing, okay? But it's not going to go very far. I mean, it's going to go to, you'll be known for that to those people. That's great. But if you want to be visible for other reasons, like getting funding for things and all these kinds of things, or to be able to, for whatever, to be really well known more than just in your little niche bubble, there are ways to do that, and those are those examples. Okay, I still do the technical and academic publications from time to time on a specific request, but unlike the tenure track people in academia, you've got to do this. You got to go to the niche things and that makes sense. Okay, but the rest of the people, industry and all that, you're not trying to compete and do academic and tenure. You're not trying to get that. So what you're trying to do is get visibility, because you want to get you want to get traction across the. You want to prove this is valuable, thought leadership and all this kind of stuff. Well, thought leadership isn't going to happen just to 50 people. So, I mean, it is for just 50 people. That's it. But that's not where it's going to give some wider visibility. So you need to focus on wider, larger general audiences. Okay, so that's the thing I've learned over my career, and doing that way, and just get it wider audiences going outward, selecting language and get the more generic language that everybody can use, and then make translations in the other one. Even if I do the translation or others, or I use automated translation, some post editing to make it happen, whatever, or getting volunteers to help, or paying, well, whatever. There are different ways to do that. So that was one. Conferences. Okay, now this is one I'm gonna be kind of, I don't know, gonna be provocative here. Okay, just announcing colors up front. So conferences for visibility. Okay, do not go to the same conferences year in and year out, year after year for 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, just change the conferences. Don't go to the same ones all the time. Uh, because you're going to network the same people all the time. You're just going to network always with the same people. And I've seen some conferences. I see been some conferences where like the networking happen things. And it's like the same people are going to the same conferences year after year after year after year after year. Always the same conferences. And whereas there are ways to do it, going to other places and doing things. And in sales, I just found that even I would go out when I was doing sales, I would go and find out all the industry specific exhibitions in Paris. And I go talk to them and do the pitching there, talking to them and stuff, networking there and get all the business cards and talk with those people. I just didn't go to the industry conferences where, with the tools that we were selling and stuff, because it just, you always see the same people all the time. It's just the same network of people. You can do that from time to time. Sometimes you have to do it so that you don't seem like you're pouting and you're doing, you got to do that too. But if you want to get visibility, it's wider. So the conferences, don't go to the same conferences year in, year out, every year for 15, 20 years, okay? 10, 15, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. Second thing is, don't talk about the same topics every year at the conferences. Change the topics. Because then you'll always be known for that single thing. And I've had that happen. I have had it happen to me. And now I just propose a lot of other topics, and those are the ones that actually get more traction, to tell you the truth, than the ones I've been really well known for. So another thing is to really focus on the audience and what the audience at a conference wants to hear, not what you think they should listen to about your institution's projects. Okay. If your conferences are about pitching your projects, your company, your language projects, then it might only apply, and it depends on the complexity of it. But everyone's got their own thing, their situation. If you're applying, and it might only apply to one or two people, especially in complex things, in an audience of 300 to 500 people, who are coming from 100 companies, what happens if you're giving a talk about a specific thing? You're not going to get enough people in the room, because they're wanting to, especially if there's multiple tracks happening at the same time. If you get a single track, then they're kind of focused. They got to come to your talk. Okay, but if you're doing multiple tracks, the way is not to always talk about company projects and stuff, or to make it kind of make it more generic. Okay, and I'll explain that too here. Another thing is, don't really focus on the project topics that require, literally 10 levels of review, iterations of review, to remove all the really interesting info that you started with and kind of dilute it down to what you're able to share externally to an external audience. That's just really a waste of time, to tell you the truth, because you spent all that time trying to make something so you can share it. Now you got everyone else saying you can't share this, you can't share that. This happens all the time internally, doesn't it? Does it? Well, that's just wasting everybody's time to remove all the interesting stuff and to get to something that's less interesting. So really talk about and write up your abstracts and write up your things about topics that can go through the internal review process very quickly. Okay, and that means not sharing things that are about your project too much. Just do it a different way. I'm kidding this. I'm not here. So the big challenge right here is, this means you need to adopt and you need to adapt to a paradigm shift of what it is. What is thought leadership? What's it about? What is it? What is important to share at a conference? what types of topics your department is willing to fund for you to go talk at conferences. This is a thing because the you know the department might want you to say we will only give funding to you if you go talk about what our project's doing. So that creates all this internal review and all this extra work and all these things. Whereas if you talk about more generic things, and I'll give examples here, so I give talks about 10 key values to being successful. I got a video on this. I mean, one of the one of the top 10 values that I talk about in the videos and even a conference a number of years back at the University of Danks conference, and now I've got a specific video about just those 10 key points. As number rule, the sharing, collaborating is more important and valuable than knowledge retention or knowledge hoarding. Of course, there are times when you don't share it, like patents and all those kinds of things, confidential information, but share what is important is to, when you go to conference, to share what is able to enable others to be successful in their daily jobs too. Because if you have a topic that's really interesting title, that's going to get them to come, then they're going to come to it and not go to something else. So maybe if you got parallel conference talks, right? You can only go one at a time. So except maybe you can kind of flip back and forth now, and online conferences you can flip back between channels. But and what I suggest doing, and what I do, is I give more generic talks, give a really interesting title with an abstract that's interesting, that touch everything, and then I'll insert things from my projects into that, just to give some examples. But I don't make the project itself the main focus of the talk. Um, uh, that's just how I found how it works, and it works better. And I less reviews and less having to go through all the review process and all that, and heavy review process and all that to filter out and dilute all kind of things. So that another thing, to simplify the complexity. So um, don't promote complexity, promote simplicity. Seems kind of basic, but Tony O'Dowd, I mean, Tony, you're great. You know, he was the head of the Catalyst visual localization tool that got bought by perfecttranslation.com, acquired by them, and then now he's got his own company and stuff. And his motto, kind of the slogan and motto that Catalyst, was making the complex simple. And he does a great job of doing it. He just does a great job of talking to and stuff. Um, and I can have a similar kind of, on the same kind of wavelength of doing these things, and he just does a great job of doing it. Um, choose the topics. Choose topics at conferences or papers or whatever you're going to do that help people in their daily life. Like talk about productivity tools that everybody's using, or productivity skills that everybody needs to be enables them to be successful. Okay. Talk about even corporate social responsibility and social impact, because that's kind of a big thing, especially now in COVID period, where we're all going through this pandemic and we're dealing with it, and talk about those things and how to do that well, and because that motivates people, it's a motivational thing. Touches on personal things too, and how you can impact the world. Talk about accessibility awareness and those kinds of things. And if you want to talk about projects, bring that in. But to get the things to come to your talk, that's whatever it may be. So again, this is about visibility. We're all talking about coming back to the visibility thing. How to get visibility? We'll get things that interest people in their everyday life, and not just, well, I got to do this project, or I got to set up this project, I can do that. And then the complexity will kind of depend. Not everybody's got the complexity you do. So this is something that I just, over time, I've found out that, and I've made more generic articles. So if you read through, I mean, I got a list of 150 publications, and you can see over time that they become more general and generic over time. They started really technical, the geeky stuff, the jargon, 8-page conference paper or something, all the graphs and stuff. And then just over time, I began to do more general stuff. And you can see that over history, that kind of time through. They come out, and when they get the magazines, they're just really general readership stuff. Doesn't mean I can't do panel talks about the other ones. I do those too, or when there's invited talk, or panel, round table, or something. Then get into the geek talk, because you get the really groupy people that want to talk about that. But again, it's about visibility, and and this is what most of us struggle with. So these are examples that you can do here. Um, Again, just saying videos. I make a lot of videos for LinkedIn. I now respond with videos to LinkedIn post rather than writing because people say too long, don't read. But if you tell a story and you do it in a video format and you give, kind of thing, people watch it because they can do it while they're just doing something else. It might be, eating or, whatever, and they can watch a video. So it's easy to do that, and sometimes it's faster. It's faster to create them, and sometimes it's don't have to type and just talking, and it's really fast to make with a camera or whatever. And I do those, but really I really address a lot of these ones on everyday questions. These kind of questions come up over and over again on LinkedIn in the language industry. These are just all the time. It's just amazing. So I just do posts on those, do videos about those to address these questions, kind of like this one. So there's all that, and then and like I said, you got the sometimes I make those videos, and they might come from other videos I made at a conference, or the video of kind of recording some conference or something. But these are some examples of really trying to make that, how do you deal with these about conferences? Okay, just what to go to, and use the conference for networking, that, and a lot of other things, and use for the social aspects too. But choose how you promote, make your submissions. I've got a list of literally 20. I have a list of 20 topics, bam, that are all general titles with abstracts, and they're just these are what I suggest, and they get traction. They get the traction, and the ones I'm most known about, like machine translation or automated translation or what do you want to call it, they just don't get so much traction anymore because everybody else is talking about it. Let's talk about things that other people aren't talking about. So it's that thing. That's what gets traction, and visibility. And when you get invited for one, then go ahead and do that for a special thing. But do the things. The traction is going to happen from everyday stuff, everyday skills, empowering, enabling other people on things that they're struggling with every day, and not just your project. Okay, not just your big translation system solution thing in this specific customer environment that other people can't identify with because they're not having the same problems. They might have the same problems, but there's going to be a few, and many people don't have those because they have much more simpler situations than big companies might have. So think about that. Big companies, big institutions, okay? It can be even governments and NGOs and all that. Another thing along the lines here is, I don't know if we're point four kind of here going through, simplify your language and simplify your communication for the general audience. I'm just saying that again, but kind of repeating it, but in a specific examples. I remember very clearly back in 2010, so 2010, I gave a talk an invited talk at Microsoft. It was a public talk in their Microsoft Research Series, and I used just a generic kind of just talk to it was a general audience. I knew I was going to be talking just to the machine translation, Microsoft Translator team there and their speech team, and I knew that I was going to be talking to more general audience because we had invited just people in all of it, just come talk, and we had people coming in. Different people, and you can watch because some that presented themselves who they were when I asked them who they were because I want to get an idea who I'm talking to in my audience at that point. And I made it kind of a generic, really a general thing, a general talk. And the interesting thing was really right afterwards, my aunt, who is the mother of my cousin, who's actually my mentor in linguistics. He's the one that really got me into linguistics in the beginning, over 20 years ago. Um, and I read his PhD thesis on Russian clitics and stuff. And I was able to do that because I was doing the degrees in linguistics too. And now I'm doing more commercial linguistics, business linguistics, what do you want to call this? But we're both linguists. And his mother watched that video in 2010, and that recording of that talk, and she says, "I finally now understand what both of you do." And that was after 10 to 15 years of us doing it and talking about it. She finally understood what we were doing because we kind of get into our little linguistic discussions around the family or stuff, but we kind of get in that. But she finally understood what we were talking about because of that recording, that public talk. talking because I simplified it, made it easy to understand for more gen. Again, visibility. People watch what's visible and all that. Okay. Another example, I think I'll call this point 5 here, is the example of using how to explain what you do very simply with physical objects. Okay. I remember being in my father's with my father in his retirement home back in 2013 in California, and I went to go visit him. He was not doing well, needed to have me come kind of quickly, and I spent the week just kind of uh, playing chess with him and his friends, and doing music in the lounge, and doing a little concert, kind of private concerts, all these elderly folks, and just making it fun for them that week, and just really being available to serve them and kind of just be their kind of the person just keeping them all that. And so during that time where we're playing chess, and my dad says, "Oh, over in the corner in the lounge there, in front of the TV is Dr. Salzberg, and he's I don't remember his exact name, and I'm kind of inventing Salzberg. And he is a grumbly person. He doesn't like, he's always bitter and stuff, and no one likes him. And so what I do is we kind of finish the chess game right there, and I get up and go walk over and go talk to Dr. Salzberg. So I introduce myself saying, Dr. Salzberg, my name is Dr. Jeff Allen. Nice to meet you. I'm visiting my father this week, Gordon, and his friends and everybody, and just being here. And Dr. Salzberg, what did you do your medical practice in before you retired? That's my question. And he told me what he had done. Really interesting. And no bitter, no nothing. It was just no grumbling. He was talking about what he knew because I was interested in what he do. But I was worried about his question back to me because I knew he was going to ask me the same question. And my problem is I had always struggled about explaining what I do to my in language industry and my family and friends and peers. Well, not so much peers, colleagues, but just people in general. I just had already struggled with this, and my kids didn't know what I did, And as he and I were talking, Dr. Salisbury and I were talking, he asked me that question. I'm just sweating, I can feel the sweat going down. And then on that moment on the television, right across and right in front of us, just right there is the commercial for the Samsung Galaxy Gear watch that had just come out. And on that, with the watch, they had limited little photos of images, if I can remember, of Captain Kirk and MacGyver and the Jetsons and the Flintstones and Elmer Fudd and all these things. And they were all showing these pictures of these, people talking on the phone on their watches, to their watches. And I finally knew, serendipity moment of how to explain what I do. Again, this is visibility. I've been struggling with this for years. And right at that moment, just the right moment in time, I said to Dr. Salzberg, you see the commercial there for that Samsung Galaxy Gear watch? I build the computer chip, the little translation computer chip inside of that watch that allows Captain Kirk to talk with the Klingons and the aliens on the other planets. And he totally understood. He knew what I was talking about. He just understood it. It was so easy. And from that moment on, I have always made internal talks at the company I work for, and always external talks. And whenever I give videos or anything, I use examples of physical objects. And you can go watch different videos, and they come up a lot. I use different objects. I use watches. I use phones to explain things. And I talk about quality. I'll talk about quality in telephones and cameras and acoustic guitars. And I use these objects because people can identify it because they have them in their all day, their everyday life, and it just makes everything simple. Using physical objects to explain what you do will make it tangible and concrete for others to understand what you do. So that's the objects. Another thing is using anecdotes from life to explain things, because it allows the normal people, these non-language word lovers, to kind of identify what you're doing. So the first was physical objects, and the other one is anecdotes about other things. And so um, I'll use things like the dinner table. I remember the dinner table when my family and I were talking about something about the black hole, the discovery of the black hole, and you can visually see it now in some ways, and and astronomy and all that. And so we started looking up. I started looking up. My kids started looking up things on the. Well, I had the phone, so I'm the only one who had probably the internet on the phone at the time. It was several years ago, and looked up the things and gave the answers. Um, can't you think about them? Can't you? I mean, don't you have those kind of things too? I mean, you don't go run off and the dictionary off the shelf to go look up a word or things. You just look it up on the phone or your tablet or whatever. Or you might have it. Usually a phone on you. And those are things. It's keyword searching and all that. Another situation might be when you're in a car and you have your family and you're discussing things and you're on the road and you're talking, or it might be in a plane or whatever, and you're discussing or in your vacation, and then and you're talking about some topic that you're all interested in, and the family starts googling the word, not the driver, but everybody starts googling, linking up, the searching the word or the term or something, and yeah, the discussion continues on. um, and then another example is maybe online gaming with my son. uh, if we're my sons, if we're looking up things and can't remember something about the details of the thing, about the some tokens or gems or cards in the game or something, what you do is you go pull up the phone and look it up, and then it gives you information about that specific card or whatever, or player or persona or whatever. Do this all the time, don't we? And this is when you explain things to people, not just the physical objects, but also tangible, concrete anecdotes that people can identify in real life, then you're going to be able to explain to others what language industry topics are, okay? Because they're just, people don't always get it. And there's sometimes if people are funding you, and I gave another video on how to get funding in the language industry. But so these are a couple examples. I just that moment in time I kind of learned from Dr. Salzberg, and then this kind of became a kind of a habit for me to do in general. Another thing to bring up is I had a discussion with the same cousin just here in 2021, a number of weeks ago. Um, we're talking on Skype, and we're talking about this. I was telling about the visibility thing. I was making these videos or stuff, and he just, I really want to just credit him on this because I thought his thoughts were just great. Um, and he's an academic linguist, so he does the really niche stuff that really few people in certain languages. I mean, just he does the articles that few people read. But they're really good, just detailed content. And he's really good at those languages. Um, I do the more generic, I do the more commercial, some translation solutions, or authoring solutions, or whatever, and services and those kind of things. So he said that it's usually the case, it's very common that no one else in other fields or sectors or industries, or what do you want to call these things, or domains, struggles about explaining what they do. Okay? He says we people in language and linguistics struggle about telling people what we do. We just struggle with it and showing the value of what we do to others. And he gave some examples like medical doctor. A medical doctor, a physician, does the person have a difficulty explaining to people in life around them what they do? No, they just do. It's easy. My father was a medical technologist. He's the person in the hospital that, analyzes all those fluids that they take from your body, blood, urine, all that, and he analyzes them in a petri dish, and then he gives the results to the doctor, and the doctor the nurse, and then they make a diagnosis and all that. My father never had a problem explaining what he did for his career to anyone, never. Dentists don't have a problem discussing what they do. Watch the videos about Bill Cosby, of the dentist video by Bill Cosby. It's just so funny because it's so real, and he's explaining what the dentist does, and it's so real, and we all identify with those moments in life, don't we? Going to the dentist, it's real. A pharmacist, doesn't have a nurse, a plumber. A plumber does not have a problem explaining what they do. to our garbage collector. Really, I mean, seriously, none of these people have the plumber. I mean, what they do is they unblock unclogged toilets, and they put into systems in the water system to put them in place. So any water system within an apartment or a house or whatever. So um, these car mechanics don't have a problem explaining what they do. It's their jobs. But but all the people that are language people, we struggle with explaining what we do. And the reason why, I'm giving this analogy here, this anecdote from here in this video, is my cousin then said the issue with so all these other people don't have a problem explaining what they do, but we have a difficulty explaining what they do because, and the thing about those other jobs, trades, what do you want to call them, don't have a problem explaining because they're giving a service, they're providing a service for a need. And it's usually a need that you want to, it's a health issue, or it's a practical, the garbage got to be collected, or the toilet needs to flush, or you need to have your teeth fixed to get them aligned, or whatever, or you got to surgery's got to happen, so you got to know what the diagnosis is. All these things are about a service, or lawyer. You can think of lawyer. I mean, all these trades are providing a service for a need. And usually it's a need that's pretty important. So that's what the value is. That's why you pay the people and have the value. And I mean, so many people in our industry complain. I mean, I've heard this for 35 years, where they complain and complain. I'm not visible. I'm not visible. I'm not visible. To the point where it's just, you see this in the blogs all the time, in the online discussions. And it's like, well, you got to make yourself visible. And that's why I'm doing this talk here. So the reason my cousin said that we're not visible is because language is such a basic essential for 7 billion people in the world today in 6,000 languages. It's just something that we do all day long. We might eat breakfast and read some kind of a newspaper while reading breakfast, or in the train. You're reading, okay? Language. You might be watching a movie or a film or a DVD, or playing an online game and hearing the speech. That's language. You might be reading the subtitles of that movie or game or something. That's language. You might be talking with people. I'm doing language right here. I'm doing 3 multimodal language communication because I'm talking, you're listening. I'm using, and I probably have subtitles that are generated by YouTube underneath. So that's, again, you can use language to read those subtitles, or captions, whichever you call them. And then I'm using, physical gestures and things and all that. So from all that is language, and because much communication is about language communication is about gestures too, and how I'm doing my voice intonation, all that. So that's language. You can imagine that everything you do all day long, talking, communicating with people, writing, emails, reading, whatever, writing, creating PowerPoints and Word documents, that's language. Everything that you're doing all day long is using one or more languages. Even at night when you dream. I can remember if I dream in English or in French. I can remember that. But even concepts, images, that's language. Okay, so all night, all day long, and all night long, 7 billion people in the world are doing language. We won't talk about this exceptional cases like Tarzan, didn't know, but that even say he was talking in ape language, so or the language of the jungle, the different beasts of the jungle. Okay, so even that was language. So because this is so basic and so everyday life, it's just so basic. People don't see the value of it. They just do not see the value of it. Non-language industry people don't see the value in it because they're doing it all day long. They don't understand why it's important to us. For us, it seems like we're just so passionate about these things and passionate about things that they just seem like, well, why? So the thing here is what you need to do is find these other anecdotes and that's why I'm talking about these objects and dictionaries and anecdotes and things like that. Talk about the dictionary, huh? The dictionary, we have the dictionary here, but when we're doing the online gaming and all that, talking about discussion at the dinner table, you're looking up things on the phone, actually accessing a dictionary to give you information because the conversation will not be able to continue and go more in depth and further if you don't have that information to be able to continue on that discussion, let it go and evolve. So that's important to people. And so what you have to do is find a way to find these anecdotes or find these examples that allow you to show the value of what you do and the value it is to other people, especially people if they're going to fund you or not. And again, it comes back to visibility, being visible, and how to explain things. And salespeople are good at this. Just salespeople are really, really good at this. They have to do it. Salespeople that do marketing and lead generation, and they have to, they have to make the appointments. They have to do it in 30 seconds. 30-second pitch. 30-second pitch. Then you make the appointment. Then you go out and try to get the appointment. You start explaining a little bit more in a pitch. A little more. People can, salespeople can write everything on a napkin. It's always the joke, but hey, good salespeople, they can do all draw it on a napkin. A piece of that big of paper. With a pencil or pen, whatever pen, and now we do it with whiteboards and stuff, but simple, again, making it complex simple, explain things simply, graphics of things, or when you're doing support and sales things, when I used to sell, I wouldn't even come with a long PowerPoint, just short thing, boom, boom, done, explain it and make it simple. I help identify with your audience again, help to understand what their needs are and explain how your solution fits their needs. Again, this is visibility, and it's about how you can help others identify with you. And you need, for them to identify you, you need to find things that help identify with them and identify the larger audiences. And if you want to get more of the market share, and if you want to get things, you need to make it more relatable to other fields, domains, sectors, what industries, whatever you want to call these things. It's these are really basic principles, but they're really kind of the keys to being more visible. And it all comes down to is not always talking about the things that you think will be important for others. The niche topics, the specific things, your product specific solution, your product specific service. Don't always, if you're going to give a pitch to a company, sure, yeah. But if you're talking about it and you want to talk and share and collaborate and network and things like that, those niche things just aren't the things that people are going to, catch on to. Not going to make them, going to motivate them to come to your talk. Talk about things that will bring them in. Think about how how do supermarkets do this, and how do they bring you in and attract you with their promotions and things to come in and get more, and buy more. Think about how they do it, and they do the same thing. So you can have, talk about your thing, your little specific project thing within a talk that has more general advice and help. And when you enable other people and you explain it, they want to come to it. So 45 minutes, I'm getting a lot of advice and things. Take it as it is. You might take parts of it. And again, it's not the way to do anything, but it's a way. And I just kind of explain my story, and I found ways to do it, and it seems to pretty well work well for me. And I'm still working in the industry 30 years later. I've been in and out of it, but for periods of time, especially word crises and economic situations. But I've always been able to come back in and sell and been to sell solutions and services, been able to fund projects by using these, some of these simple tips and all that. So that's helpful. Let me know. You know where to find me. So put it up. If I use this as a post on LinkedIn or whatever, or it's on YouTube, put your comments there. Yes, I know it's long. Okay, it was intended. That's how I chose to do this. It's a story, and I'll make little video sections of this on different parts of it, that can watch the shorter versions if you want to, for those that didn't stay. And I'll use this to answer posts and LinkedIn questions and all that, different places. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it, and just let me know if it's been helpful for you.